Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have something super exciting. The very first Create and Inkspire box, July 2020. This is the very first one, and this is the brainchild of Courtney Creeber. I wanted to show you here the Wildflower metal stencil, cloud and grass stencil, Wildflowers 4x6 set, and the Wildflower 3x4 set. Those are all designed by Courtney. She also includes a little treat, and this time it was airheads, and there's little information on it on little fun facts about airheads. So this is the Wildflower stencil and the cloud and grass stencil. And the products in the kit are this Nuvo masking fluid. I've never used this stuff before, so you'll see me use it for the first time. This is an unboxing and a 5-cart 1 kit video. That's why it's a little bit long. I hope that you enjoy what I have for you today. This is Nuvo Shimmer powder in Sunray Crossett. I've never used that before either, so this was a bunch of new stuff for me. Then there's some twine in here. It's kind of a natural twine. I did measure it out here. It seems like it's about a little bit over a yard. I folded it in quarters there, and it was about 10 inches. So I would say it's about 40 inches. 36 is a yard. So I would say it's about a yard. And then for the embellishments here, this is from Trinity stamps. These are gorgeous. They don't have a name on them, but they're like clear crystals. There are 2 A2 size pieces of Craft Perfect Watercolor Paper by Tonic Studios. And then there is a Shimmer cardstock. It is called Ivory Sheen Pearlescent cardstock by Tonic. There are 2 pieces of 110-pound bright white smooth cardstock by Mohawk and 1 piece of Neenah Desert Storm. Then here are the stamp sets themselves. This is the Wildflower Sentiment set and the Wildflower set, both drawn by Courtney. She also designed the stencils, and these are hand drawn. She drew these. So the girl that always says she can't draw anything, well, she just made some stamps. So let's jump into the first card. For the first one, I'm using that Wildflower stencil, and I sprayed some pixie spray in the back, and then I'm burnishing it down onto my watercolor paper with my bone folder. And now I'm going to fill in all of the spaces here with water. This was an experiment. I have never used the shimmer powders before, and I've actually never used this type of watercolor paper before either. It's kind of got some lines on it, so it was very interesting. So here, when I tapped on the bottom, because I have watched enough videos to know that you were supposed to tap the bottom, a big pile came out, and I was like, oh no. I wish I would have put more powder on the whole thing, or had set it aside to dry. Because that one where I had the one branch where I have like too much, that one looks the nicest. Anyway, I had kind of used a wet paintbrush to just kind of smoosh it around a little bit. Make sure that there was pigment in all of the places so you could see the design that's on this stencil. It's leaves and branches, and she did a really good job. So I was trying to clean up the water that was around on the stencil, and then I did pat it dry, and I kind of wish I would have waited just a little bit before I did that, but it is what it is. And then I heat set it because I wanted to keep moving. So then I stamped this one flower from the stamp set, and I did use all of the sentiments and all of the image stamps in here. And I also tried to stay really close to the card kit itself. I only used one die that wasn't included in there's one die in all of these cards. I do use different color mediums, Copics, colored pencils, distress inks, and distress oxides. I used all of those to kind of help me get to where I wanted to go. But as far as the basics of the kit, I did just use the kit. So here I mixed up some paint, kind of. I used that Shimmer, what is that stuff called again? The Nuvo Shimmer powder, Sunray Crossett. I used that with some water and mixed it together, and it makes this really pretty gold color. So then I just painted in my flower and added some splatters to my my card. After I was done and it was dried, I restamped my image because that stuff kind of masks the lines and blurs them out, makes them chalky, and just restamped that and then stamped the sentiment here, thankful for you. I just thought it was kind of perfect for this. Very simple, clean card. Then I used a piece of that Ivory Sheen Pearlescent cardstock, which is more of a gold pearl color. I used that on the bottom of my card panel here, just in a little strip, just to kind of finish it off. And I thought that that was fantastic. It was a really nice starting place for this kit. It's very simple. You can make hundreds of these. Well, if you use just the cardstock from the kit, you can make like four of them. But I thought it was a good starting place. So then I decided I wanted to use the stencil again. And in a previous video I had done, I showed several ways to use a stencil, and one of them was kind of like no line coloring, but I used the Ink on 3 fade out ink to blend over the stencil so that I could see what was going on, and then I colored over top of it. So that's what I'm going to do here. So here you can see my fade out ink, which is almost the same color as this Neenah cardstock. And now I'm just going to use my Prismacolor pencils. I did 4 color blends. I used purple and green. I'm not going to show you coloring everything. What I'm going to show is coloring this image here, which has the purple and the green, and I'm going to show coloring the green leaves next to it, and then not going to show anymore. So what I did is I filled in the entire space that I wanted purple with the lightest purple pencil. Then I went in with a dark purple, and then even with a navy blue, and kind of reinforced the edge and then blended it out with the medium purple and then back to the light purple. Very much like I color with Copics, I color with colored pencils. I don't know. I don't think that's like the technical way you're supposed to do it, but I always say that I'm a card maker. I don't have to master anything. I just have to kind of dabble in it, and that works for me. So here for the greenery on this, I thought it was like a flower plant thing. It could just all be green. It's up to interpretation. She just made these kind of wildflower silhouettes. Just, they felt like, I don't even know what that one is. Is it thistles? Maybe it kind of feels like a thistle plant to me. So that's what I colored it like. So after I put the lightest green down, then I put in what I thought was going to be the only outline I needed. But as I moved through this, I realized I needed to add more outline to this because I didn't want it to blur away into the background. I wanted these images to stand out. I just wanted them to be no line, like no actual black line, and I wanted them to be soft, which is why I went with colored pencil. I love the way colored pencil looks on colored cardstock, and Neenah cardstock in particular is very nice for colored pencils. So after I kind of played around with the edges, I then moved on to this other plant here. And this is just leaves. And I kind of went around the edges where I thought I was going to need the crispest lines. I end up tracing the whole thing. So I feel like I could have just started there and would have got through this a whole lot faster if I would have just traced all the edges. And this one doesn't look like it's a flower to me at all. It just looks like greenery. So that's how I colored it. So I blended out the darkest line with a medium tone green and then went in and added a shadow, blended that back out a little bit, making sure to leave a highlight because I'm going to put a highlight color in to brighten everything up. And you can see how much that yellow green really brightens the image up. Like, it's fine and it's very muted, but once you put that on there, it's so green and it's so pretty. So once I had that one done, then I decided I needed to go in and kind of reinforce the coloring on this other image here just a little bit, which was fine. Colored pencils are nice because they are dry medium, so they don't dry on you. So it, you know, you can go back and work it as many times as you want. Once I had all of those colored, and I just picked and chose what parts I wanted to be flowers, if I wanted flowers on the plants or not, then I decided I was going to add a drop shadow or just a shadow around everything. For the Neenah cardstock, I chose to use the W markers, the W4, W2, and W0. And although it looks dark going on, it's almost an exact match to the Neenah cardstock. It's just a little bit of a shadow. So I did go around each of the images the same way as I did this one. And once it was dry, you can see how it's kind of got that halo. Everything kind of steps up from the background. And then I stamped the sentiment that says, you are loved, my friend. And it's actually two different sentiments. The you are loved is one little sentiment, and then my friend is another. Because I was stamping this over top of colored pencil, I chose to use the Versamark ink and then heat emboss it with clear, just because colored pencil is waxy and sometimes it's hard to get a nice stamped image over. So the twine that came in the set is fairly thick, and I'm not usually a fan of really thick twines, so I just kind of unwound a portion of it so that I could get one of the strands. Is a 3-strand twine, one of the strands, and I just wrapped that around the top of my card, and then with another little piece I made a bow. I just thought it finished it off. It's kind of these pretty wildflowers underneath. It's very soft and kind of subtle. And then I popped this all up on some foam tape and added it to a white piece of cardstock and added a few of the Trinity gems to some of the flowers that are in there. There are several different sizes in that bag, and I love the super tiny ones. I need a bag of the super tiny ones, just the tiny ones. So I just scattered those along on my card, and I think I put 5 of them on there, and there it is. I hope you enjoyed that card. That's card number 2. So for card number 3, I decided to make a vertical card, and I'm going to use 2 of the florals that come in the stamp set, and I am stamping them, and I'm also going to stamp them on some masking paper and then trim them out so that I can mask them, and here they're masked. And I'm going to stamp the leaves again, as well as use that same flower stamp and just stamp an additional flower. I should have also stamped that one on a piece of masking paper, but I didn't, and you'll see how I kind of fix that later. So here I wanted to fill that bottom space up just a little more. I was kind of looking for a meadow of flowers and then to have kind of a beautiful sky above it. I just thought that would be really pretty card design. And then I'm going to pull out the masking fluid, which I have never used before, but I did not stamp masks for the leaves, so I'm going to use that on here. And then I did let it dry. There is time between here. So I ink blended some green on the bottom because the grass stencil is kind of the positive and not the negative. So to get the whole space in the back green, I ink blended that first. And then I did use it to add some texture. And then I placed it over as a mask. And then I stenciled on the blue for the sky, which is the salty ocean here. So you can really see the grass blades now that I've done that. Now remember, all the flowers and everything I thought were masked, but they're not. And then I turned the cloud stencil over, and when it's upside down, it's mountains. I thought it was really fun to have kind of a mountain range in the background. And then I turned it back over, and now I'm going to start adding my clouds. The sky never seems to be just blue, and I think it adds so much interest to add color to my sky. So here I'm just adding some cracked pistachio, some dried marigold, some spun sugar, and I will add some broken china to the sky. Just adds a lot of interest, and I'm just kind of moving the stencil around, flipping it over, adding different angles. I'm not inking it all the way across most of the time, just little bits and pieces. I think it adds so much interest to a sky. And then I did go back through here with the broken china, and I kind of blended that all the way up just to add some more blue into the clouds, like it's peeking through between the clouds. And definitely chose different angles and everything. And then to peel off that masking fluid, which has now completely dried, it did before I even started stenciling, I used this adhesive eraser. And here you can see that third flower. I didn't do a very good job of masking it. Like, I didn't mask it at all, so it's blue. So you'll see how I fix that. So here I'm just coloring my green on this one flower. I'm not going to show you everything, just this one here and one of the orange ones. Just making the green stand out, adding some dimension. You definitely don't need to use all those colors. That is a super tiny image. For the blue, for the flowers, I needed to make them blue because that flower is blue, and I couldn't think of much else that would cover it besides maybe purple. And I didn't really want to color them purple. So I decided to make them blue, and here I'm using the fluorescent blue and kind of filling in the whole flower. I basically wanted to see if it was going to cover. And then B69 is a very purpley blue, so it is a very good shadow for this fluorescent blue here, and it kind of helps cover up the idea that I had ink blended over this other flower in the background. I mean, it's meant to kind of sink into the background, you know, the black lines on the outside aren't as crisp, but it's not really going to matter because it is just a background flower. So I just blended it out. I think it went B69, B66, B26, and then back to the fluorescent blue. It's a really pretty blue combination. If you have those, I would suggest you try it. It is such a pretty blue. I don't know, I've had the fluorescent colors in my collection for a while, and I like them a lot. A long time I didn't think I needed them, and I'm glad I own them now. So this is the fluorescent orange, the fluorescent YR1, and I'm going to fill in these flowers over here with the orange, and then YR04, YR09, and RV99. Yeah, that's the color combination that I'm going to use on this one, and I'm going to just make sure that those petals that are sunk to the back more are darker and have more of a shadow. So I did bring in that RV99 to just put shadows there. Blended that out with the YR09 and then completely blended the whole flower. I cannot believe that Courtney drew these. She's always big on telling everybody that she can't draw. She makes a scene on a card and she gets her ruler out and talks about how she can't draw anything, and you know, she needs a ruler and she can only draw straight things. Oh, here I'm stamping the sentiment. It says, "Friends bring color to your world." That's another one of the sentiments from the stamp set. All of the stamps you see came from this kit. Anyway, she drew all of this stuff, and I'm just absolutely impressed with the style and the way things were made. I mean, you could do so many different techniques with all of these, and the kit it's well put together. It's very cohesive. You can make tons of cards with just what's in the kit. To finish up this card, I added some of those Trinity embellishments to the centers of my flowers and a couple around the sentiment, and that is card number 3. For card number 4, I decided to do something a little bit different. Now, when Courtney decided on starting Create and Inkspire, it was a dream she had, like a literal dream. And then when she decided to do this kit, this is fulfilling a dream. So I thought, what better way to honor her than make a card that I dreamed about? This card came to me in a dream, and you'll have to tell me if it was worth me making or not. So my thought is that this card would look quite elegant using this leaf. So you see I've stamped it twice on my paper, and I have colored one of them just in solid, and the other one here I'm shading with several greens. It's all the same greens that I've been using the whole time. I didn't pull out any additional markers. I love that green combination. It's very, very pretty. So I'm going to take the only die that I used that was not, the only thing I used that wasn't in the kit, these circle dies, and I'm going to cut a circle. And you can see I kind of cut off the parts of the leaves, which is fine because I just need a base to piece this onto, paper piecing. You know me, I love to paper piece. So I cut out each one of these leaves and I went around them with this black marker. This is a Tombow marker and it's a water-based marker. It doesn't leach into the paper. And then I took the end of my paintbrush and I kind of curled each leaf around there. And then I realized that this background was a little too light, so I added a darker green and then went around it with those W markers from a couple from the Neenah card and gave this a drop shadow. Started with the same markers. All the markers you're going to see are all the same. I didn't change them. It's just a small pile on my desk, and that's what I used for the whole kit. So I just added a little bit of shadow to this before I continued on with the leaves. So what I'm going to do with all of these leaves is curl them with my paintbrush, and then I'm going to add a very tiny piece of foam tape underneath the part that's curled up. And that is going to maintain that shape, but it will flatten out really well to mail. So here I decided I was going to splatter with this Nuvo shimmer powder. So at first I just splattered water on it and then sprinkled Nuvo shimmer powder, and it didn't react like I thought. So then I was like, well, I'll use a wet paintbrush and try to get it all activated, and it still didn't do what I wanted. And then I tried touching it with the wet paintbrush, splattering it more with water. Anyway, I mixed them up with some water and made some actual gold paint and splattered that on instead, and I liked that so much better. I did kind of fix some of my boo-boos here with the paintbrush afterwards and made some bigger splotches and stuff. The gold just is supposed to be kind of in the background. So this is how I did the leaves. I added just a little bit of foam tape where it was curled up and just placed them over their matching leaf on the circle, and you can see how much dimension it adds. It's so pretty. I need to do more of this kind of paper piecing where it's dimensional. I forget, and I always glue stuff straight down. I mean, that is a really cool technique too, but there's other things. So once I had that done, I put it back into my MISTI, and I'd used the negative space so that I could hold everything, and I stamped Hello Friend with some VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then I had cut a piece of black, which didn't come in the kit, with that other circle die that I had used, just so that I could make a shadow. Now I'm using this gold cardstock. It looks gold, but it's actually called Ivory Sheen, and I cut that so that it wasn't, so there was kind of, what is that called? Asymmetrical, and put that on. And then I'm going to kind of build a little bit of a nest behind this circle with that twine. Now remember, most of that twine is missing that third piece because I used it on the other card, so it is much thinner. So I just kind of manipulated that so that it would fit inside the card here, so it didn't stick off. And then I'm going to use liquid adhesive just to go on top of my foam tape to make sure that everything is stuck down really nice. I find that this just makes sure things stay stuck. And then I adhered that directly to my card base and added a few of these gems. Now, because of the twine and the foam tape, I was able to use some of the larger gems from this Trinity mix, which they're all really beautiful, but those big ones make a big impact. I like the small ones normally because they don't mess with shipping, nothing gets caught in their machines. But having foam tape, like a big giant thing like the circle with the foam tape on it, it kind of helps protect that. So here's that card. I'd love to know if you think it's elegant like I think. And then this is the fifth and final card. So I'd like to first of all say thank you for hanging out with me this long. I know it's a long video. I normally don't do these. But I'm very proud of my friend, and I'm super excited that I get to share with you the very first Create and Inkspire card kit. Now remember, I will have Create and Inkspire link below. If you join there, you will get a discount on the kit. And currently kits are first come, first serve, but I know she has plans in the future to make them a subscription box. Courtney is a colorist, so I feel like the majority of her kits are going to lean towards her type of card making, but you never know. You can really do so much with this stuff. So this one I stamped on a piece of that watercolor paper, and I stamped it and then moved the stamp and then stamped it again and just kind of filled the whole thing up and made my own pattern paper. I'm using Distress Inks to watercolor and just had a few pinks off to the side smushed on my glass mat, and I am drying in between layers and just adding in the lightest color and then the mid-tone and then a deeper color for shadow. And I thought it was pretty, but it was boring. It was just one colored flower among all of these white flowers, and it was boring. I don't usually like a lot of things on my cards, but I also don't like cards that are like boring. So once it had dried, I realized I needed to add more dimension to this flower, and it's a very whimsically drawn flower. It's less realistic than the others, but it has really cool shaped petals, and I think it's very, very unique and interesting. So I added some deeper colors to where I thought would be the shadows. And I even pulled out a smaller brush so I could definitely get in just a little bit farther into those nooks and crannies and kind of make the flower do what I wanted it to. I am not a watercolorist. I don't even really practice watercolor too much. So if you're trying to learn, this is probably not the place for this one. Well, maybe you can learn from my mistakes. So I brought in a deep blue because I thought that that would add a lot of dimension to the pinks, and it did. It really did. It definitely changed the way it looks. You can definitely see the dimension there by adding that deep blue. It's still boring though, isn't it? Like one flower, and I definitely didn't want to watercolor all the flowers because I don't have time for that. But I wanted something kind of unique, and although a single flower was unique, it wasn't what I really wanted. So I decided to paint outside the lines just a little bit, and then I got carried away. And I made it look like somebody had splattered a bunch of color down, and it landed on this one flower, and maybe they were tears, and maybe they have fallen, and just colored this one image. And I thought it was so pretty after I did this cool, like outside of the line, messy watercolor splatter thing. And I did use my paintbrush to actually splatter on in some places, but a lot of times I just drag the color and use kind of a shaky hand to make sure it's got, rough edges and isn't so man-made looking, and hop around from part to part. And I just find that it's very organic looking when I do it that way. I love this splatter. I love it. I think it made the card so much better. So then I needed to paint the leaves. So I, of course, brought in, I think it was peeled paint that I used to watercolor the leaves here, just to add a little bit, and the stem as well. And I used that 00 paintbrush so I could get in there in the nice tiny spaces. And although very cool, oh, here I added some gold splatter made with that shimmer powder again. Although very cool, it was flat. So then I decided I was going to add a drop shadow, and I'm using those same warm grays that I've been using for the whole video. I went around and added kind of a drop shadow to just this flower at first. Went in between all the petals, made the shadow darker. At first I was just shading the flower, but then I decided to just do the whole thing. Maybe it would pop off the page just a little bit more. I really wanted to highlight this flower, but I didn't want it so separated from the background that it felt like it was out of place. This card, even though in the end I could tell you that I'm not 100% happy with how it all turned out, this card is probably my favorite. I think it's because I decided to do the messy watercolor and make it splattery, and I think that's why this is my favorite. Anyway, so I went around the whole thing with the W markers and blended that out. And I did the same thing for all of the white flowers as well. Blended them all the way out. And then I went back and reinforced the shadows and shading on the colored flower. So this video is going to go live on July 15th, 2020 at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. At 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, this kit becomes available at the Create and Inkspire website, which I said before, and I'll say again, will be linked below. Go over there, pick up your kit. If you haven't subscribed to the Create and Inkspire website yet, I'd encourage you to do that. You could get $3 off of your kit by doing that. That's every month you can get $3 off your kit. And she always sneak peeks the kit a day early in that group. You'll see it in her Facebook group as well. That's called Handmade Happiness, and I will have that linked below in the description as well. here you can see I'm going around with those deeper, darker colors, and I'm not sure if this actually helped a lot or if I should have stopped at that first set of shadow. But like I said, I do really like how it turns out. I just had to do a little bit extra to highlight the flower, and I will show you all that. So what I have left from the kit, things that I can put into my personal stash that are, you know, stash builders, are the 2 stencils, the 2 stamp sets, the masking fluid, and the shimmer powder. Those are things that I will have forever. Once the stamp set comes into my craft room, it doesn't leave. Also, those Trinity embellishments, that is a whole bag. You know how those embellishments work. You think that you only have a little bit, but they seem to last forever. So besides the consumables, the cardstock, the watercolor paper, that you will, and the twine that you will use up, you know, in a little bit of time, the rest of it is all stuff that will stick around, and it's definitely worth the investment. The cost of the kit is definitely less than the value of the items. I believe there is a $10 to $15 difference between what you're getting in the kit and what you pay for it. On top of that, you can get a $3 discount by becoming a member of Create and Inkspire, and every month there's new content there not related to the kit. There's classes, there's card shares, there's contests, there's private videos. There is so much going on in there. There are blog posts and news articles or written articles about crafting and how to break into the crafting community, and there is so much to be had inside Create and Inkspire. I would absolutely encourage you to give that a peek when you have a chance. June was the first month that the website was live, but it was a free sneak peek. July, it got so much better. And like I said, it is a paid site, but it isn't very much, and you get that discount, so it's kind of a bonus. So here is that card with the splatter. You'll have to let me know what you think. Here's all 5 cards that I made today. I would absolutely encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye!